everybody. My name is Mike Lipson. I teach technology electives at Natick High School. I wanted to just talk for a couple of minutes about YouTube and education and kind of give a couple of my opinions about pros, cons, how we might use YouTube to improve education and what some of the pitfalls might be. My own experience with using YouTube is fairly limited at this point, but I've kind of resolved to get into using it a little bit more. So I've started a channel, or at least I had a channel started last spring, I think is when I started it up, and I've been putting some screencasts and other course-related content on there, so hopefully I can start to do some flipped lessons for my students and some other stuff that I'll talk about a little bit later on. I'm starting a game design course this year, and I'm teaching an electronic music course, and both of those courses have kind of an intense computer component, where there's going to be a lot of use of computer applications, and so it's pretty well suited to YouTube, so we'll talk all about that. Now as far as pros, there's a lot YouTube has to offer in terms of education, and really a lot of that comes with the barriers that YouTube breaks down. So for starters, using YouTube is free. So creating content for YouTube is free, and consuming content for YouTube is free. And that opens up a lot of doors, especially in a world like education where we don't necessarily have unlimited budget. So as far as just making things available and breaking down barriers, constant availability is really the key for YouTube, and that's what enables some ideas like the flipped classroom and things like that, where you're starting to get students doing a lot of the stuff they traditionally did in class at home, so that when they get to class, the teacher can assist them with other kinds of work. So in my case, I have students watch some videos at home that help them learn concepts and some kind of declarative knowledge, and then when they come into school, then they're able to work on projects and start to put things together with more higher order thinking skills. Students can also go at their own pace when they learn that way. So when students are starting to work with the content at home and then do the application at school, then they can go through that content at any pace they want when they're at home, and they'll all be at the same place ideally when they're ready to come to school and do the piecing together of it, drawing conclusions part of the work. And kind of in that vein, YouTube is also asynchronous. So student A could learn in the morning, student B could learn at night. Whatever time is best for them, they're still learning. I did mention screencasts before, which is also a really big deal. Screencasts are amazing, and YouTube is a really good venue for them. So not only can you find all kinds of great screen recordings and ideas about the kinds of things that you can do with computers on YouTube, you can make them. And just like any other video on YouTube, screencasts are often free or at least very inexpensive to make, and they're really powerful. So with applications like QuickTime for really quick screencasts, or something like Sketch, doesn't do screencasts itself, but there are a lot of tools that will let you kind of annotate video, annotate images. You can really come across with some powerful messages with the screencast. So I use screencasts in my flipped lessons, where I'll have, for example, with game design, I'll have the kids learn a game design tool by watching some of these screencasts that I've made, and then I don't have to do those demonstrations when they're in class. They can see those demonstrations from home. Now, I've talked a lot about teachers creating videos for students. It's also worth noting that there are a lot of opportunities for students to create videos for teachers, and that really gets into some of the higher order thinking skills and the higher levels of Bloom's taxonomy, which is really exciting for teachers. This kind of creative multimedia project really enables those higher order thinking skills and makes it so much easier for students to access that kind of stuff, rather than having to come up with kind of old media ways of doing it. And then speaking of higher order thinking skills and new kinds of multimedia, there are all kinds of options that YouTube opens up that weren't available before, even with video, right? Like, so even several years ago, when students could create video using expensive equipment that the school might have, been lucky enough to have, they couldn't do the kinds of things you can do with YouTube as far as linking videos together and starting to think about different ways of using video. So for example, there are different kinds of playlist lessons that people can create, and there are video linking technologies in YouTube that are kind of amazing. So for example, people have made things like choose your own adventure videos, or game show or quiz show kind of videos. So a student might create a quiz for another student, or some other kind of multimedia that involves linking multiple videos together. So you can actually have a video, and then within that screen you can have multiple clickable areas. And so students could use that to allow people to make a choice about which video they're going to see next. People have used that for quizzes and things like that, but the possibilities are pretty much infinite. Now, YouTube isn't all, sunshine and roses. It's great, and there's some really amazing stuff out there, but it is also a bit of a challenge sometimes. So for example, distractions on YouTube are easy to find, they're everywhere, and that's just something that we as teachers and students together have to kind of manage and work with. So there are special YouTube portals that allow students to get access to YouTube with only educational videos. There are also just options for students and teachers to come up with policies that help students manage their time, manage their focus, and kind of learn how to focus. And the other thing about YouTube that can be a bit of a roadblock is that, especially creating videos, requires technical skills that aren't necessarily directly related to the subject matter. So, for example, if I'm not in a tech class, if I'm in an English class or a history class or something like that, and I need to make use of YouTube to create a video to show what I've learned, then the actual video creation part of that is not necessarily a skill that's directly related to my objective. So when a teacher designs a lesson and asks a student for a YouTube video, they need to evaluate whether the students have those skills and whether those skills are going to be an impediment or make an unlevel playing field when students are trying to actually create these projects. If you have some students who are really comfortable with video and other students who've never made a video in their lives, then we start to run into this problem where you've got a bunch of students who aren't starting in the same place. So you do have to be careful about that as an educator. Another thing about YouTube that can be a bit of a snag is that at the end of the video and on the side of the page, you often see recommendations, and sometimes those recommendations don't take our students exactly where we want them to go. Much like Google's search algorithm, I should mention Google owns YouTube, and they operate YouTube. Those recommendation videos are chosen with an algorithm similar to what Google uses to choose their search results, and so often you're going to find videos with similar words in them or videos with similar people in them, but that might not necessarily be about the same topic. And so you do sometimes run into this issue of videos that aren't really related to the topic that the kids are drawn to after they watch your video. With any new platform, there's always going to be challenges, right? There's always going to be bottlenecks. And with YouTube, it's mainly bandwidth, and it's not always on the user's end. Bandwidth challenges with YouTube are really a problem, especially with education. Now, sometimes you go to watch a video on YouTube and there's buffering, right? The video pauses, you have to wait, it can be a little frustrating, sometimes you're reloading, watching the same section over and over. And like I said, it's not always on the user end. So if it is on the user end, like if you're in a school where the connection isn't really sufficient and you've got tons of kids trying to watch all at once, you can run into problems there. But you could also sometimes run into problems if just a lot of people are trying to use YouTube all at once. And so it could be that, you're in school on a day when there's something important happening on YouTube. Maybe there's a presidential debate or something like that, and YouTube is just getting slammed and they just don't have enough bandwidth to provide that video for everybody. So you're really relinquishing a little bit of control as an educator when you use YouTube in a lesson, because you might not be able to ensure that that video is going to get to where it needs to go when it needs to go there. Despite those cons and kind of misgivings that I have about YouTube, I really have to say the pros far outweigh the cons. YouTube just has so many amazing things that it can do, both in terms of stuff that we could have done before but that cost more money, like just making video, and things that we could never have done before. The Choose Your Own Adventure videos, or the quiz videos, or having students collaborate on videos together or comment on each other's videos. There's so many kind of ancillary parts of YouTube that aren't just video that are really important for the education process. At the end of the day, it comes down to higher order thinking skills. When students create video, they're synthesizing. They're taking their declarative knowledge and they're putting it together and they're building something that's more of a project that requires more skills and more layering. YouTube is really great for that. At the end of the day, I'm into it. I gotta say, YouTube is the way to go. Yes, there are troubles, yes, there are problems, but totally worth it. I got some money in my pocket, about ready to buy.